Hi, Chuck Huber here for the Stata YouTube channel. Today I'd like to just show you around Stata and what it's like to use Stata for some basic data analysis, some data management. And so we're going to begin by importing some data from Microsoft Excel. So I'm going to go over back to an Excel file here. And here I can just see some raw data. Now, a way to get the data into Stata, and I don't really recommend this, but it is possible to just grab the data from Excel, and you can just right click and select copy, and then you can go over to Stata and open the data editor in edit mode. Notice this one says data editor and then it says edit in parentheses. So we're going to click that, and now I can right click anywhere in the spreadsheet, click paste, and now the data are in. Now notice I kind of went quickly through that. There was an option that said import the first row as variable names, and I went ahead and let it do that when it copied. If you don't do that, it'll just paste everything directly into the spreadsheet interface in the data editor. Okay. Now this works sometimes, most of the time. I mean, it always works. It will paste in, but it's easy to make mistakes when you're grabbing and copying and pasting data and things like that. So this is really not the optimal way to move data from Excel into Stata. What I would recommend, let's close this. I would recommend importing your data. So let's go to File and go to Import. And then I'm going to select Excel Spreadsheet. And then next to where it says, oh, this opens the Import Excel dialog box. And so we're going to click Browse next to Excel File. And I'm going to select this auto data set, auto.xlsx. And at the bottom of the dialog box, it shows me a preview of the data that are in this particular spreadsheet. And so what I can do, one of the things I notice is that, again, the first row of the data set is actually the names of the variables. So what I'm going to do is click this box here next to import first row as variable names. And now you notice the variable names have been replaced or the first row has been replaced. The variable names have been replaced by the first row of data. Okay. So I could import all the data as strings, and sometimes that can be useful, but we're just going to do this quickly here. So I'm going to click OK, and it's going to ask me, the data in memory have changed. Do I want to continue and lose unsaved data? In this case, I do. I don't mind losing the stuff we copied and pasted. So I'm just going to click Yes. And notice that the dialog box has echoed the command in the results window. I can also see it if I click over here in the history window. That will put it back into the command window if I want. So it tells me the command. So the command is import Excel followed by the path and file name in double quotes. We're importing the first sheet, sheet 1, and the first row option tells Stata to take the first row of data and make those the variable names, and then cleared out the data that we already had in memory. So this is a really handy way of getting data into Stata in a way that's reproducible. Okay. So next, let's take a look at the data that we've imported in the data editor. So I'm going to click this icon that says data editor in edit mode. And I just want to kind of take a look at the data. And so I'm going to kind of scroll across here. And maybe there are things I'd like to change in terms of the way the data looks. So for instance, gear ratio is displayed with 2 decimal places of accuracy. Maybe for whatever reason, I'd like to display it with 1 decimal place of accuracy. I could round it, but I don't want to round it because I would be losing data. I don't want to lose any data. I just want to change the display. So what I can do is come over to the variables window, and I'm going to select gear ratio. And then down here below in the properties window, I'm going to select format. And next to format, there's a little box here with 3 dots in it. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to come up here to where it says fixed numeric. That's already selected. And it's going to display 14 total digits, but then to the right of the decimal, it says 2 digits. Maybe I want to reduce that to 1. Okay. Now, again, this is not going to change. I'm not rounding the data. I'm just changing the way it looks. So watch what happens to the data in gear ratio when I click OK here. Now, whoops, it bumped it back over. Let's scroll over here again. Now, the data for gear ratio are displayed with 1 decimal place of accuracy. But it's stored with 2 decimal places, but it's displayed with 1 decimal place of accuracy. Okay. So again, we didn't change the data. We just changed the way it looks. Now, I also see that foreign all I see right now is a bunch of zeros, and then there are some ones here. I might want to label those with value labels, so I could come over here in the variables part of the data editor and select foreign. And then I could go to value label here at the bottom under properties. So I could select value label. Again, I'm going to check this or click this box with the 3 dots on it. And then I want to create a new label. So I'm going to click create new label, and I'm going to name it foreign because I'm going to label the variable foreign, so I might as well give it the same name here. And I'm going to type 0 for the first value, and I happen to know that 0 refers to domestic cars. So I'm going to type domestic as the label for 0, and then click add. And then for the value 1, I'm going to type the label foreign, and then click add. So this tells Stata that 0 refers to domestic cars and 1 refers to foreign cars. So then I'm going to click OK, and then close. Now I haven't actually labeled the data yet. If I scroll over and look at foreign, it still says zeros here. What I need to do for the value label now, I'm going to click value label, and then if I click this little arrow next to that box with the 3 dots, now it says foreign here. That's my labeling scheme, and I need to select foreign to attach that to the variable foreign. Okay, so I have a labeling scheme named foreign and a variable named foreign. So now you can see that the variable foreign displays domestic and foreign rather than 0 and 1. It is still stored as 0 and 1, so if I click domestic, I can see here at the top it's actually a 0. And if I scroll down to foreign, I can see that that's actually a 1. So it just changes the label for the data. It doesn't change the actual data itself. Okay, so let's close this. And maybe I would like to generate a new variable. So let's go up to data. And let me see if I can find this here. Create or change data. I scrolled right past it. And I'm going to create a new variable. Okay. And we can create this as a floating point variable. So maybe I'd like to, our variable MPG refers to miles per gallon, but maybe we would like to convert that or create a new variable called kilometers per liter, or KPL. So I'm going to call this variable KPL, and it's going to equal MPG times, and I happen to know that the conversion factor is 0.425. So I could just type that directly in here, or if I wanted to, I could click create, and I could use the expression builder. So that's another way that I could do this. In fact, if I wanted to, I could just remove this. Let's scroll down and find variables. It's in here somewhere, variables. And I could select MPG. And here I could type times 0.425. Whoops, 425. And then that would place this in the window here. And then I can click OK. And that issues the command generate KPL equals MPG times 4.25. And if I come over to the variables window and scroll down, now I see the variable KPL in the variables window. Okay. So let's label that variable, because someone may come along later and see that and think, what is KPL? So I can also use the properties window to label that variable. So I'm going to select label here and type kilometers. Whoops. Oh, I need to uncheck or unlock this little box here. Notice there's a little padlock, so I need to unlock that. Forgot to do that. So I'm going to type kilometers per liter. And then press enter. And that will label the variable KPL with kilometers per liter. And notice that when I clicked enter, that actually issued the command for me, label variable KPL kilometers per liter. So again, anytime you're using these point and click, the point and click interface, usually, almost always, it will actually generate the command for you. So this is a really useful way of learning new commands in Stata. Okay, next, let's describe some data. So I'm going to go up to the data menu here and select describe data. And then I'm going to click describe data in memory or in a file. So I can describe the data that are currently in memory, or if I wanted to, I could describe data from a file on disk without actually opening the data set. And that can be a really useful feature with really large data sets that take a while to load. But I'm just going to describe the data in memory, and I could select particular variables, but I'm going to leave this blank so it just describes everything. And then I'm going to click OK. And if I scroll up, I see that the command is describe. It tells me the number of observations. So there are 74 observations in this data set stored in 13 variables. And then below that, it gives me a list of the variable names, the storage types, the display format, any value labels such as foreign that we created earlier, and then we have the variable labels listed on the far right. Okay. Okay, we might also want to summarize our data. So I could go back up to data and go to summarize, which is, if I can find it here, I know it's here somewhere. Summary statistics, here we are. So go to summary statistics. And again, this opens the summarize dialog box. Again, I could select particular variables if I wanted to. I could even display more detailed summary statistics, but I'm just going to leave this empty, and it's going to do a basic summary of all of the variables in the data set. So the command here is summarize, and this gives me a list of all the variables in the data set, the number of observations in the second column, I guess it is here. Now notice that there's 0 for make, and that's because make is actually a string variable. And because it's a string, it displays it as having no observations. But if I click on the data editor, I can see that make actually does have data, they're just strings. So summarize is going to show 0 observations for strings. It also displays the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, and the maximum by default. And there are other options. You can explore those later, but there are ways to display more detailed summaries for individual variables if you want to. Okay. Next, let's make a histogram. Let's make some graphs. So let's go to graphics, and I'm going to select histogram. And this opens the histogram dialog box. And I'm going to create a histogram for MPG. And I'm going to move this over here and click submit. Now notice you can click OK or submit. The difference here is if I click submit, it will run the command. It will do whatever I asked it to do, but it will leave the dialog box open. And I like being able to do that because what I can then do is I can create my graph, take a look at it and see if it's what I want. And if I want to change some things, I can go back to the dialog box and I could change it. So for instance, if I wanted to change the number of bins, I could click the little checkbox there, increase this to 12 bins, click submit, and that would change the number of bins to 12. Another thing that I might like to do is overlay a normal distribution. So I could select add plots. I'm sorry, density plots. I clicked the wrong tab there. So I could select density plots and check the box next to add normal density plot and click, I'm going to click OK this time. Watch, when I click OK, what it's going to do is run the command, but it's going to close the dialog box. So now I have my histogram with the normal distribution overlaid on top of that. There are lots of options in the dialog boxes. You could change the box colors, the color of the normal distribution, the thickness of the lines. It's entirely customizable, but we'll save that for another video. Let's try creating a pie chart here. So I'm going to go back to graphics and select pie chart. And I might want to create a pie chart for foreign. So let's take a look at foreign. I'm going to move this over so I can click submit again. And so that creates my pie chart for foreign. There are lots of options here. I think I'm going to skip over the options for now, but that's the basics of creating a pie chart. Let's create a box plot. We might want to see a graph that shows the relationship between two variables. So let's select box plot. And for my variable, I'm going to select MPG. And then for the categories, I'm going to go to the categories tab, check group 1, and then I'm going to select foreign. And I'm just going to click OK. We're not going to mess with a lot of options. There are many, 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 many options here. Actually, there's one I do want to show you. So I'll click submit. And this will create box plots for MPG for each category of foreign. So I have domestic as well as foreign. If you prefer, I can go back to the main tab and select horizontal. And I'm going to click OK this time. And what that will do is draw the box plots horizontally. It's just transposing it. Okay. Let's also create a scatter plot. So if I go back to scatter or to graphics, I'm going to select two-way graph at the top. And this opens the two-way dialog box. Now this is a deceptively simple looking dialog box. It actually is the workhorse of graphics and Stata. So what I can do is click create, And this allows me to create many, many different kinds of plots, basic plots, range plots, contour plots. And notice under each one of these, there are many options over here on the right. There are immediate plots and advanced plots. So I just want to create a scatter plot for now. So I'm going to select weight as the X variable and MPG as the Y variable. And I'm going to click accept and then OK. And this will create a scatter plot with weight on the horizontal axis and MPG on the vertical axis. So we can see that there appears to be a relationship between weight and MPG. Nice thing about scatter plots is you can look for relationships like this. Okay, once we suspect there's a relationship like that, we might want to do some statistical analyses. So let's go to statistics here at the top, and I'm going to select linear models and related, and then I'm going to click linear regression. And this opens the regress dialog box, or linear regression dialog box. There are lots and lots of tabs and options here, but I'm going to leave the model tab selected, and I'm going to select the dependent variable MPG. And then I could just select the independent variables from a list here, but I might want to do something a little bit more sophisticated. So I'm going to click on this box, the little 3-dot box here next to independent variables. And this allows me to specify more sophisticated groupings of the independent variables. So under specification, I'm actually going to select two-way full factorial. There are lots of these things I could do, but I'm going to select two-way full factorial. And then I'm going to select two variables as my independent variables. So the first one I'm going to select is going to be weight. Weight is a continuous variable, so I need to check this C, check the box underneath C. And that tells Stata that weight is to be treated as a continuous variable in the model. For variable 2, I'm going to select foreign. And because foreign is a categorical variable, it has two categories, 0 and 1, domestic and foreign. I don't need to check the box underneath C, so we're going to leave that alone. If I wanted to, I could change the referent category, but there are only two categories of foreign, so I'm going to leave that alone for now, the base category. So I'm going to then click Add to var list, so that adds it to the list of variables, or var list. So then I could click OK, and that adds this expression to the list of independent variables. And I'll explain what these symbols mean after we see it in the results window. So let's click OK. And the dialog box issues the command regress. MPG is the dependent variable. And then we have this expression after. This is Stata's, we call it factor variable notation. So there are two variables. C.weight tells Stata that weight is to be treated as a continuous variable. And we'd like to see the main effect of weight. And then I also have foreign. Stata in this expression, because it has an interaction, is going to assume that foreign is categorical, which it is. Okay, so we'd like to see the main effect of foreign. And then these two sharps or hashtags or pounds, whatever you want to call those symbols, having two of them tells Stata that we want to see the main effect of weight, the main effect of foreign, as well as the interaction of both weight and foreign. So then if we look at the output below, we see our ANOVA table here at the top left. We see some model level statistics at the top right, the number of observations, the F statistic, the p-value for the F statistic, the R squared, the adjusted R squared, and the root mean squared error here at the top right. And then in the coefficients table below that, we see the coefficient for the main effect of weight, the main effect of foreign, and we also see this interaction for foreign and weight. So we get that interaction term in here as well. And underscore cons is the intercept, okay? So that's what the output looks like. And if we wanted to, we could write up an interpretation and describe the coefficients in words. But one thing that's really handy that you can do after fitting regression models as Stata is use the margins command. So in Stata, we have what we call an estimation post-estimation paradigm. So we've estimated the parameters or fit the model. And then what we can do is go under statistics and scroll all the way down, way down at the bottom, and select post-estimation. And this gives us lots of options for things that we can do after we estimate the parameters or fit the model. So there are marginal effects, estimated means, and so forth. There are tests and contrasts we could do. We could do predictions and all kinds of things. What I want to do for now is click on the little plus to expand the marginal effects menu here. And then I'm just going to select, and there are lots of options here. I'm going to select basic and low dimensional analysis and then click launch. So when I click launch, this opens the margins dialog box. So this allows me to specify some things about the model and calculate some marginal predictions. So at the very top here, it says covariate to compute margins, contrasts, and effects. So let's select our categorical variable. Our categorical variable is foreign. And the analysis type, we're just going to leave this as, we're going to leave it alone for now, because I'm going to check this box here that says interaction analysis with another covariate. The other covariate is continuous, and the weight is continuous. So I'm going to select continuous and select the variable weight. That's my continuous covariate. And then I'm going to type in some values of weight, because what I need to do is we're going to estimate the expected miles per gallon for different values of weight. So I'm just going to type in here 2,000. I just happen to know this because I've used this data set many times. 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 3,500, and 4,000. So what this is going to do is estimate, again, the expected miles per gallon at 2,000 pounds, 2,500 pounds, all the way through 4,000 pounds. Okay? So I'm going to click OK. Whoops. Analysis type must be filled in. So I have left something out here. So I do need to select this at the top. So I want the marginal means of outcome for levels of covariates. So I'm going to select that. Okay, so now let's try again. Let's click OK. And now it worked this time. So I'm going to close the post-estimation selector again here. So this issues the command margins, followed by our categorical variable foreign. And then for the continuous variable weight, it says at values of weight equals 2,000, 2,500 through 4,000. So that's the command. That's our margins command that generates these marginal predictions. Okay. And then below that, it tells us that there are 74 observations. It tells us about the expression that we've asked for the predictions at. So this says at 1 refers to weight 2,000, weight equals 2,000. At 2 refers to weight equals 2,500, and so forth. So that if I look at the output below, what this tells me is at by foreign, or at sharp foreign. So at 1 again refers to weight equals 2,000. And domestic. So for a 2,000 pound domestic car, we expect the miles per gallon to be about 27.69, 27.7 if we were to round it. We get a standard error for that prediction. We get a t-statistic for that prediction and a p-value. And that's testing that the prediction, whether or not the prediction equals 0. So the null value is 0. So that doesn't really make sense in this particular case, but it does report it anyway. And then we also get a 95% confidence interval for our predicted or expected miles per gallon. And we get this for all combinations of things we asked for. So we get a 2,000 pound foreign car. At 2 refers to 2,500, so a 2,500 pound domestic car, all the way through at 5. At 5 refers to a 4,000 pound car. So this very bottom row is for a 4,000 pound foreign car. These are the expected miles per gallon. So it's nice to see this in a table, but we might want to see a graph of this. And we could go to a dialog box, but the easiest way to get the graph of these predictions is to just type margins plot and press enter in the command line. And what that will do is plot the predictions from our linear regression model. So on the horizontal axis, we see the weight of the car. On the vertical axis, we see the linear prediction, or the expected miles per gallon of the car. And then we see two lines. The blue line here represents domestic cars. The red line represents foreign cars. So these, again, each of the dots represents the expected miles per gallon for that combination of weight and domestic or foreign. And we get a 95% confidence interval around each of those predictions. Okay? So that's something we might want to do in terms of statistical analysis. Now, once we're done with all of this, we've done a lot of work here, and it would be a shame to lose it when we close Stata. So something we can do is come over here to the history window, and what I can do is collect some of these commands. So I can actually select, I'm going to click any command in the history window, and then right-click, and I'm going to select all, So I'm going to click Select All and then right-click again and select Send Selected to Do File Editor. Okay. And what that will do is send all of these commands to the Do File Editor. This is our Do File Editor or Batch File Editor. And then I can save this. I could click Save and save this Do file. And then I could go back and rerun the entire analysis again anytime I want. So I've used the menus and dialog box system for the entire analysis, but I can still collect all of the commands, save them, and run them over and over again anytime I want. Okay? So that's a really handy feature. Now, something else that I might want to do, what happens if I'd like to learn more about a particular command like regress? If I go back to the dialog box, I can select Statistics, go to Linear Models and Related, and click Linear Regression. And I don't know if you noticed this before, but at the bottom of the dialog box, there's a little question mark. And I can click the question mark, and this will open the help file for that particular command, in this case, regress. And if I scroll down, I see some details about the syntax. One of my favorite features are the examples, so there are lots of examples here. And if I want to learn even more about the regress command, I can click View Complete PDF Manual Entry. There's a blue link here at the top. I can click that, and that will open the manual entry for the regress command. And it has lots and lots more detail, including things like methods and formulas. So I could click on some section headers here, and that will take me to the rest of the entry that shows me some of the math that's involved in calculating this. If I'd like to search for things, I can close this and I can go to the command window and I can search for things. So I could just type search regress, and that will then open the help file. The viewer, and it will show me the help file for things like generate FVR list. And if I scroll down here, I see regress, so I could click on that. If I wanted to search only the manuals, for instance, and not other things, I could type search regress and then use the comma manual, and then it will only search the manual for help and things like that. If I wanted to search FAQs, I could type search regress FAQ, and that will give me a list of any frequently asked questions that we've written. Or if I wanted to search for Stata Journal articles, I could type search regress and then SJ for Stata Journal, and that will search Stata Journal articles that contain the word regress. Okay? So lots of things that you can do in Stata. It's really easy to get data in, to do some basic data cleaning and data management. So you can do some quick summaries, some graphics, some data analysis. And so those are some things you would likely do in a first session with Stata. So I hope this was helpful. Thanks for stopping by.